Our story begins with Haruto, a 30-year-old man living poor and miserable in a small, dark room he never leaves. For ever since his childhood, he had been the victim of harsh and violent bullying from all his classmates, which left him with severe depression that chained him within his room for the rest of his life, doing nothing but playing video games and listening to the summaries of AniPrestigE, which he had followed from beginning to end and subscribed to with great passion. Yet one day, as he sat playing on his phone, a sudden strong light burst forth from it, startling him so much that he shut his eyes tightly against the glare, and when he opened them once again, he was struck with shock at what he saw, for he now stood in a place entirely different and strange, and before him appeared a beautiful girl who spoke to him saying, "Congratulations, you have won the chance to live a new experience in another world." In that instant, Haruto realized he had died, but fortunately, he had been granted another chance at life, and so he hurried to tell her that his past life had been unbearably hard, that he had done nothing with it, not even leaving his room, and for this reason, he wished this time to feel safe. She comforted him, replying, "Do not worry, I will make up for everything you have lost, for this world is built upon magical powers, and I promise to grant you a mighty magical strength. All you must do is enjoy your life, nothing more." As soon as her words ended, Haruto found himself transferred into a new place, inside a different body, the body of a newborn child, and not just any child, but the crown prince, son of the king and queen, who were overwhelmed with immense joy at his birth, especially since he was born a handsome boy with striking features. Without hesitation, the king wished to complete his happiness and summoned the seer to measure the magical power hidden within his son's body, certain that his child's strength would not fall below level 40, believing he would grow into someone of great renown. But the shocking surprise no one had foreseen was that Haruto's power measured no more than level 2. My God, had not that girl promised him a mighty strength? What treachery was this? The king and queen were stunned and thought to themselves, "This is a great humiliation to the royal family. It will make the people mock us and diminish our standing. We must act." And without mercy, they made a grave decision to cast the child into the forest and declare him dead, so that none would know and none would see. At that very moment, the girl who had granted Haruto his new life was watching him from afar, and there she realized she had committed a terrible mistake, for she had not given him a weak magical power as it appeared, but rather a strength of 1002, the greatest force in this world. Yet the seer's crystal ball had failed to read the true number, showing only the 2 while concealing the 1000. Meanwhile, the king carried out his cruel plan and abandoned Haruto in the forest without pity, as though fate had betrayed him to die on the very day of his birth. Yet Haruto sought to understand and wield the magic within him, and to his surprise, he succeeded, creating a cube known as the barrier, a construct used for nearly everything. He even managed to shape it into a bird, and furthermore, to fly with it himself. It was then that he encountered a wolf within the forest, and upon seeing him, the wolf sought to devour him at once. Haruto struggled to think of a way to protect himself, crafting many barrier cubes and hurling them at the wolf, hoping they might strike or frighten it into retreat. Yet nothing happened, for the wolf was unaffected and remained intent on killing him. At that moment, Haruto conceived a stronger idea, and by using his cubes, he lifted a tree from the forest and hurled it upon the beast, striking it only with a minor wound. Then finding no other solution, he created a massive cube to lift a great portion of the forest ground itself to crush the wolf, and with terror filling its heart, the wolf cried out, "Stop! I surrender!" Haruto was astonished to hear the voice of a girl, not realizing at first that it was the wolf itself speaking, and she addressed him with an apology, admitting that she had sought to devour him because she sensed the overwhelming magic within his body and wished to claim it for herself. But Haruto remembered then that he was still an infant unable to speak, so he forged a magical cube and merged it with his vocal cords, enabling him to communicate with her. When she heard him speak, she became certain that she stood before someone possessing a terrifying magical strength, so vast that she believed he might be one of the Dark Kings, masters of limitless sorcery, and at once she pleaded with him to become her new master, swearing to serve him with complete devotion. At first, Haruto thought she was jesting, but he soon realized she was utterly serious, even demanding that he grant her a worthy name, and so he answered and named her Lina. Afterward, Haruto felt an intense weakness overcome him and nearly fainted, for he was still but a newborn child who needed nourishment to survive and not knowing what to do. Lena transformed into her human form, appearing as a breathtakingly beautiful young woman, and decided that her first mission would be to find food for him. Yet just as she was about to depart, she heard footsteps approaching. By Haruto's command, she went forth to investigate while he remained behind, watching through his magical cubes, and soon she discovered that the newcomer was a powerful warrior who had come to the forest for Haruto himself. Lena confronted him, demanding, "Who are you, stranger? And why do you seek to take Haruto? Know this, I will never allow it." But the warrior replied, "I am a relative of the king, and I have heard of what he has done to his son, and I could not bear it. I had to intervene, for this child has no guilt to die so unjustly, and so I have decided to raise him as my own son and care for him." Lena was deeply moved by his words, tears streaming down her face, and she agreed to let him take Haruto and protect him, on the condition that she too would accompany them and remain close to him, and the warrior accepted without hesitation. From that day forth, Haruto lived with his new family for 9 whole years. For 9 long years, Haruto lived a quiet and beautiful life with his new family, and during that time we came to know that he also had a younger sister named Charlotte, whom he loved deeply. As for Lena, she lived with them in the house, taking on the role of maid and caretaker. Yet, despite all those years, Haruto's bond with Charlotte was not strong, for she always avoided speaking to him or playing near him. Unlike Lena, who spent most of her time with her, this puzzled Haruto greatly, and left him wondering about the true reason behind her behavior, until one day his mother comforted him and told him that Charlotte could not speak to boys and felt embarrassed around them, and that was why she kept her distance and could not deal with him. At that moment, Haruto began to seriously consider how to get closer to her, and he realized that with his magic, he could create another version of himself, not only to teach her how to speak, but also to draw closer to her heart. That very same day, his father began training him in swordsmanship, insisting that he learn it, for he believed Haruto's magical power was weak and that he needed another means of defending himself. Yet from the very first round, his father noticed that his son possessed extraordinary strength and could perform movements that not even a young man with a magical power level above 30 could achieve, which made him suspect that something unusual was happening with Haruto. That night, he confessed his doubts to his wife and told her that perhaps their son was one of the Dark Kings reborn, a thought that filled both parents with anxiety and made them wonder how they should act if this suspicion proved true. What they did not realize was that Charlotte had overheard them, though she did not fully understand what they meant. Several days passed without Haruto doing anything remarkable. Even his sword training was postponed because his father became too busy. One evening, while sitting idly in his room as usual, Haruto heard loud noises outside. Too lazy to get up, he opened his magical surveillance screens and was horrified to see soldiers lying wounded and defeated on the ground, while his father sat in utter despair at the center of it all. Realizing that the situation was both dire and painful, he rushed outside to see what was happening. There, his father spoke to him, saying, "For some time now, a series of robberies and raids have been taking place across the city at the hands of a very dangerous gang. After long investigations, we discovered their hideout, and once we learned of it, I gathered the soldiers and prepared a plan to strike them. But it seems someone leaked our plan, for when we entered their base it was empty, and they appeared suddenly from the shadows and attacked us with ferocity, inflicting heavy losses as you can see." Haruto felt his father's deep sorrow and tried to comfort him, assuring him that they would overcome this problem soon. As he walked among the wounded soldiers, Haruto secretly used his magic to heal them without anyone noticing, and indeed, they all recovered with astonishing speed, which left his father bewildered, unable to understand what had just happened. Meanwhile, Haruto sat thinking about the matter, then opened his magical screens again to track the city in search of the gang, and to his shock, he found them celebrating their recent success alongside the city guards. This revealed the truth. It was the guards themselves who had leaked his father's plan to the criminals. Rage surged within Haruto, and he realized he had to punish them with merciless vengeance. Without hesitation, he took off swiftly toward their hideout, determined to teach them a harsh lesson. What he did not know was that Charlotte had secretly witnessed him flying through the sky. When Haruto arrived at the gang's lair, they were startled by his sudden appearance. Not knowing who he was or why he had come, introducing himself boldly, he said, "Do not worry, I am the one who will end you now." Then he unleashed his magic, striking them all at once. Terrified, they realized they were facing someone far too powerful to defeat, and so they confessed the truth. We only follow orders. Our true goal was to kill your father and eliminate him, but to this day, we do not know who the one giving us orders is. All we know is that the commands come from outside the city. Upon hearing this, Haruto ordered Lina to deal with them and burn the place along with everyone inside it, while he wrote a message addressed to his father from an anonymous sender, revealing everything about the gang and their attempt to assassinate him. When his father received the message, confusion overwhelmed him, for he had no idea who his enemy was or why someone was so desperate to destroy him. Meanwhile, Charlotte could not forget what she had seen the previous night. She approached Lina and asked her seriously, "How can there be two versions of my brother in the house? I saw them both, and I even saw him flying in the sky. Yet when I returned to his room, he was sitting there with no magical energy around him, so I knew he was not the real one." At that moment, Lina realized Charlotte was not as naive as she thought, and decided to tell her the truth. "Your brother is not an ordinary child. He possesses a magical power so overwhelming that no one else in this world can match it, and one day, he will become the greatest ruler on earth." From then on, Charlotte began to follow Haruto everywhere, eager to learn more about him. Haruto himself noticed her behavior and understood the reason, so, out of caution, he linked her to a magical tracking device that allowed him to monitor her movements at any time and escape from her if he wished. Then came a day when his mother said she was going to the city festival with Charlotte. Haruto could hardly believe his relief. He finally felt free of her constant surveillance. But before they even reached the festival, his tracking device gave a warning signal of danger. He quickly opened his magical screen and saw a gang attacking them, slaughtering the guards mercilessly. Panic surged through him, and he immediately contacted Charlotte through the device, guiding her with directions to escape until she and her mother reached a safe cave. Once there, her mother asked her, "Who was helping you, Charlotte?" She replied, "I do not know, mother. There was a voice guiding me, but surely he is the one who saved us." Her mother then said she would step outside to make sure the area was safe and try to find whoever had been helping them. Indeed, she left and used illusion magic to hide the cave, but the gang found her once again. Cornered, she saw death before her eyes and cried out, "If this is the end, then I will kill myself by my own hand before you kill me." She pulled out her dagger and was about to stab herself when suddenly the blade shattered in her hands and she collapsed unconscious, all caused by Haruto's magic, for he had finally arrived, furious and unyielding, unwilling to let his mother witness what was about to happen. With sheer wrath, he descended upon the gang and annihilated them all in a single merciless strike. He then rushed back into the cave, carrying his unconscious mother. To reassure Charlotte without exposing himself, he altered his voice and said, "Your mother is safe. She is only unconscious and will awaken soon. Do not worry, the guards will come to rescue you from here." Yet Charlotte felt the familiar aura of his magic and realized it was truly her brother. She ran to him, embraced him tightly, and said, "I knew it. You are the hero of justice, the one who fights evil with his magic. I love you so much, Haruto." Haruto then realized his secret had been uncovered, and there was no way to deny it. So he played along, confirming her words, but making her promise that this must remain their secret, hidden from everyone else. After that, he returned swiftly to the palace before anyone could suspect him, while Charlotte and her mother later returned under the protection of the city guards. When Charlotte saw her brother Haruto standing before her, she rushed forward and embraced him tightly, and that moment was a great surprise to everyone, for the girl had always avoided him and refrained from speaking to him throughout her life. But in that instant, she dismissed all previous thoughts and declared with determination that from now on, she would draw close to him and always accompany him, for she had no one else. And indeed, from that day forward, her closeness to Haruto became exceedingly strong, spending every day playing and joking with him, reveling in the happiness of his presence, while Haruto himself felt joy at this change. Yet at the same time, he felt disturbed because he no longer had any time for himself or privacy in his room, as all his time was now devoted to being with Charlotte, who had become profoundly attached to him. One day, Charlotte noticed the surveillance screens and asked Haruto about them, and he explained everything regarding them. She was utterly amazed by what she saw and exclaimed, "My brother is the master of magic. He can create anything in this world with his magic," which caused Haruto to feel extremely embarrassed as he was beginning to appear in his sister's eyes as a superhero, and he feared she might reveal his secret to others. He decided to divert her attention slightly and told her that he wished to learn the ancient magic, known as the lost magic, yet he did not know where to begin or how to access its sources, for most of the books on the lost magic no longer existed. At this, Charlotte eagerly offered her assistance, saying, "Leave it to me, my master," and took him to the grand library within the palace, a library of enormous proportions, where he was astonished by its vast size and the abundance and variety of books. She moved with ease among the shelves, selecting the lost magic books for him and handing them over without difficulty. She did not stop there, but recommended a particular book, explaining that it contained extensive knowledge about magic, including how to use it to travel between different times. Haruto was stunned by the wealth of information and asked in surprise, "How did you know all this? Were you watching me?" Charlotte explained that since her childhood, she had been reading the books with the help of their mother and Lina, understanding all their contents, and now she wanted Haruto to read them too, so he could also benefit from their knowledge. What he read reminded him of adventures and anime he had once watched. When Charlotte heard the word anime, she was astonished and asked what it meant. Haruto explained that these were stories from a world completely different from their own, and he began telling her, "Anime has truly magnificent stories." Excited, she said, "I want to watch them. I want to watch anime by any means possible." And naturally, her wishes were commands to Haruto. After days of effort, he succeeded in creating a site linking the current world to the old world, opening the videos for her to watch and listen to. And as soon as she heard the voices, she was amazed, barely able to believe it. As time passed, Charlotte's requests only grew. She wished to see Haruto while he fought villains, wearing the outfits of anime heroes so that no one would know his true identity. Haruto did not object and attempted to replicate their costumes exactly. After all this, she wanted to accompany him in actual battles, but he refused and opened a surveillance screen for her to watch from a safe distance. Indeed, Haruto set out to confront the gang and defeated them swiftly before his father's soldiers arrived. At that moment, his father arrived with the soldiers, saw him, and surprised, asked, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Haruto had to lie, saying, "I am the hero of justice. My mission is to fight the villains and maintain justice in the city." And then he swiftly escaped. From that day onward, every time Charlotte saw Haruto fighting the villains, her admiration for him grew, and he, unfortunately, could not suppress her amazement. He obeyed her request to continue combating the evildoers, while she observed from afar, growing ever prouder of him. He became known in the city as Dark Soldier or the Black Knight, and he became inseparably associated with the title of the hero of justice. One day, Haruto finally completed creating his second self, believing he could rely on it later, but he discovered that this version was extremely lazy and said to him, "Hello man, I'm tired," before heading off to sleep, which shocked him greatly. While sitting, his father arrived, requesting a meeting with him and his sister. When they appeared, he informed them that the king's children would visit the city, and they must welcome them without committing any mistakes. Everyone went down to receive Prince Lai and his sister, Princess Marian. It was evident how arrogant the prince was, showing no respect for anyone, while his sister was polite and shy, apologizing for her brother's behavior. Haruto remained focused, sensing that these might be the true siblings. When Haruto noticed Prince Lai's condescending glances, he became frustrated with his arrogance and approached him, challenging him to a wooden sword duel. The prince agreed and the duel began. Initially, Haruto allowed the prince to win, but later revealed his true strength, attacking fiercely, and the prince fell to the ground, surrendering and kneeling before him. After the duel, Princess Marian apologized for her brother's behavior, and Haruto assured her that it was merely a duel, then returned to his room. Days passed, and Charlotte continued monitoring the city, reporting any crimes to Haruto, until she discovered a gang committing theft. She rushed to inform him immediately, and this time Lina decided to join the mission, saying, "I will be with you to prevent any danger." Haruto initially refused, fearing that her inexperience might cause greater losses or reveal his identity. Charlotte, however, insisted, "All heroes of justice have assistants, and you too should have one." And Haruto, with his tender heart, could not refuse her. He agreed on the condition that she must heed his orders and not use her powers without his permission, to which she promised obedience. Together, they moved to the gang's hideout, where the thieves were celebrating the spoils of their theft. When they saw the Black Knight in front of them, they were stunned, and one foolishly said, "Go away, we don't sell children's toys here." Enraged, Lina unleashed her fire magic upon them, nearly burning them, but Haruto intervened immediately with protective magical barriers, warning her sternly, "Didn't I tell you no violence? Do you want to cause me trouble?" She realized her mistake and apologized. "I am sorry, I was provoked, but I did it all for you, and I won't do more than that." Haruto then regained full control of the situation, neutralized the gang, and returned home utterly exhausted and worn out from the intense confrontations. At that moment, Charlotte was overflowing with excitement and joy at what she had witnessed, and she exclaimed to her brother, "Lena must accompany you on all the upcoming missions. She is truly formidable in combat." Yet he refused firmly, replying, "I have already made my decision. This was the first and last time she will accompany me." The girl was reckless and unsuitable for such situations. At the same time, in the royal palace, Prince Lai was preparing himself for his usual ceremonies, still dwelling on the battle he had lost against Haruto, feeling deeply aggrieved and humiliated by the defeat, when one of the servants interrupted his thoughts, saying, "The king has commanded you to invite Charlotte to the party tomorrow." The prince was taken aback and questioned, why invite a small girl from the countryside to a royal gathering? Yet these were the king's orders, and he could do nothing. Thus, the day ended in this uneasy state. The following day, as usual, Charlotte entered her brother's room, but this time her hands were not empty. She had brought food and cheerfully said, "Come on, let's eat." And they sat together, enjoying the meal. Meanwhile, his second self entered, exhausted and drained, complaining, "It is unfair that you eat and live your life with ease, while I am forced to attend these tedious royal ceremonies and face the arrogant king every day." He collapsed onto the bed, weeping from fatigue and exhaustion. Seeing his state, Charlotte was moved and comforted him. "Do not worry, I shall accompany you to the royal party and ensure you do not feel bored. We will play together and you will eat the finest food. Fear nothing." Haruto was astonished and asked, "Why will you attend this event?" She answered, "The prince himself has invited me," leaving Haruto even more puzzled, saying, "What could be the reason for this sudden invitation? I sense something is amiss." Determined, he decided to monitor the path Charlotte would take to the party. As he had anticipated, the next day, Haruto discovered before him a group of royal palace guards weaving a conspiracy, preparing a large summoning spell intended to capture Charlotte and kill her. Upon seeing them, Haruto did not hesitate and swiftly moved to observe the situation firsthand, disguising himself as a passerby and questioning them about their actions. His presence and demeanor unsettled them. They believed him weak, unaware of the overwhelming magical power he possessed. Without delay, he struck them with a single blow, toppling them all to the ground, and continued to combat them with relentless magic. Realizing they could not overpower him, the leader unleashed the prepared summoning spell, calling forth an army of skeletal monsters, all of which attacked Haruto at once. Initially unsure how to respond, he fought back, slaying them, yet their numbers were overwhelming. Suddenly, his gaze fell upon the magical gem controlling them. He seized it and asserted control, commanding the skeletons to attack the sorcerers themselves. When one tried to resist, Haruto dominated it as well, and ultimately, all were defeated, thrown into a mass grave, with Haruto threatening annihilation should they fail to confess the truth. Terrified, the leader admitted, "We only followed orders. The objective was to eliminate Charlotte, and all previous assassination attempts on the family aimed to kill her. The one who assigned us this mission is the queen." Haruto was struck with the gravity of the revelation. What a dangerous matter. Why would she do all this? The leader explained. The queen wishes to eliminate a young girl like her, for she possesses an extraordinarily powerful magical energy, and when she grows, she will surpass the queen's own strength, threatening her position and legacy. Thus, she seeks to remove her while she is still young. Deep concern for his sister filled Haruto, prompting him to leave and return home, deciding to attend the party personally with Charlotte instead of his duplicate, striving to avoid confrontation with Lai, who still harbored resentment from their previous duel. Upon finally reaching the kingdom, they found Haruto's father awaiting them. The moment they stepped from the carriage, Charlotte ran across the grounds wildly, while Haruto approached his father and asked a strange question. "What would you do if you discovered that the queen intends to target Charlotte and wishes to kill her?" His father was taken aback. "That is the same message sent to the Black Knight yesterday. It seems Charlotte truly is in danger." Haruto resolved, "I am ready to sacrifice my life to protect her, or any member of my family. Rest assured, I will not allow any harm to befall her." In his mind, he also knew he must finally seek retribution against his own mother, who had abandoned him in the forest 10 years ago. Meanwhile, in the palace, the queen gathered all her guards, who knelt before her in terror and submission, for they had failed to carry out their assigned task, the assassination of Charlotte. Enraged, she hurled the drink she held at them, exclaiming, "I have given you more than enough chances to kill Charlotte, and yet you fail at such a simple mission." One of the guards responded, "All of this, unfortunately, is due to the Black Knight. Every time we attempt to kill her, he appears and destroys our plans. His power is immense, and we cannot oppose him." The The queen then drew the great sword with which she had once battled the demon king, declaring, "It seems I shall defeat the Black Knight myself." Before she could continue, the Black Knight, flesh and blood before her, appeared. The guards froze in awe, but with a single motion and his magic, he rendered them unconscious, leaving the queen to face the Black Knight alone. She felt no fear, nor did she underestimate him, believing no one could surpass her. She unleashed the kingdom's 3 strongest spells at him. He did not evade them but absorbed each, suffering only a minor wound. The queen's composure began to waver. She drew her sword for the true battle. As they both prepared, they attacked each other with full force, strikes to the right and left. The queen initially controlled the combat, skillfully dispersing his attacks from all directions. Yet in that crucial moment, Haruto regained his awareness and strength, countering fiercely, knocking the sword from her hand. The queen, reaching her limit, attempted to resist and strike again, but in an unexpected move, Haruto created a large binding collar around her, immobilizing her. She screamed at the top of her lungs, struggling in vain, utterly helpless. Haruto then advanced upon her with pride and authority, declaring, "Is this your limit, Your Majesty? I believe this has shown you the extent of your limitations, and that you are not capable of being the absolute queen as you presume. Take heed, if you attempt to undo the spell upon these chains, it will explode instantly, and you shall die." The queen experienced the worst moment of her life, yet Haruto continued, "Do not worry, it is not in my interest to kill you now. But beware, this collar will remain around your neck for life. Should you even attempt to harm me or betray my trust, I will know how to punish you, perhaps even ending your life, and then I shall rest. I have also heard that you intended to kill the child Charlotte. Should you try to harm her, know this will be your final moment. Do you understand?" With that, he left her behind and exited the palace with utmost pride and dignity. What an astonishing Haruto! What formidable power and commanding presence! The queen realized that her strength was insufficient to confront him, and with this might, he could conquer the entire kingdom. Time passed, and 5 years went by since those events. The children grew up, and in that time, we see Haruto with Charlotte and Lena playing outside in the snow, overwhelmed with joy and happiness, and we realize that Haruto had now reached the age of 15. He recalls that the last time he faced the queen had passed without any problems. No attack had occurred on Charlotte, and nothing unusual had happened since. The 3 of them were laughing and enjoying their time freely, the air filled with peace and delight. After a while, Haruto's father called him, and he went to greet him and speak with him for a short while. Yet his father surprised him with news he had never expected, saying, "I want you to prepare yourself, for this is your last month with us. A summons has arrived from the School of Magic. Starting next month, you will leave directly to the Royal Academy in the city to refine your skills there." Haruto was shocked, replying, "But I never wanted to join that school, nor do I wish to meet anyone there." He sat thinking for a moment, then turned to his father's desk and said firmly, "No, I will not go to the School of Magic." His father answered sternly, "This is not your choice, my son. The decision came from the kingdom, and the necessary papers have already been prepared. There is no other solution, and do not worry. Prince Lai himself has requested your presence. You must accompany him, be close to him, and form friendships there." His father continued, "To make matters easier for you, you will be allowed to take a companion with you to the academy, someone to assist you, and I want you to choose a proper partner. But stay away from Lena, she is reckless, and cannot support you in this mission." While the father was still speaking, the mother burst into the room with excitement, saying, "I will be your companion, I will support you, cook your favorite meals, and take care of you more than anyone else." But Haruto refused. "Am I still a child, mother? I am a strong man and I can rely on myself. I will find someone else to accompany me." Then he left them and returned to his room, where he spoke to his duplicate. "Listen, you are the one who will go to the academy in my place. I don't want to attend and I don't care about any of this." His duplicate replied mockingly, "Are you dreaming? There is no way I'm going to that boring, dreadful school. This is your problem, not mine, and if I am forced to go every day, I will cause you nothing but trouble." Haruto was stunned by his response and said, "You are truly a useless copy." After a long argument, they finally agreed to alternate, each one attending the academy every other day, and thus the matter was settled. The next day, Haruto began thinking about choosing the right companion. He sat with Charlotte and Lena to discuss who could possibly help him there, but Charlotte was too young, and her parents would never allow her to go, so Haruto found no solution. He left them and wandered down the road, his mind weighed with the burden of choosing someone to accompany him, for even the journey itself felt heavy, and he needed someone cheerful to ease it for him. While wandering near the city's borders, he could not find any suitable friend and searched all day in vain. At that very moment, a group of adventurers was battling a massive ice dragon. At first, the dragon was peaceful and did not wish to fight or harm anyone, but the humans were merciless and struck him with full force, wounding him badly, forcing him to defend himself. When Haruto's father heard about it, he called Haruto and Lina to tell them what happened, saying, "I feel this dragon resembles you. Perhaps it has the ability to transform into a human form." Lina answered, "This is no ordinary dragon. It is a powerful magical dragon, old in years, yet it had hidden itself all this time." Haruto said, "Very well, let us handle this. I will go and save it and form an alliance with it." And so Haruto and Lina set off. Haruto donned the armor of the Black Knight and began surveying the area through magical monitoring screens, only to discover that another group of adventurers was heading there to slay the dragon. Haruto moved at incredible speed, arriving before them, striking them down with a single blow, and then stood tall in front of them to shield the dragon from their violence. Haruto spoke to the dragon. "Who are you? Why are these adventurers attacking you?" Then it revealed its true form, a quiet, withdrawn girl, who began to tell him everything from the start. "I never loved wars or battles. I was always calm, avoiding conflict. I chose a suitable cave to live in solitude until one day an adventurer left a book there. I began reading it until I decided to take human form and venture out to find more books. From time to time, I would go out, gather new books, and return to read them until I built a massive library. But sadly, just days ago, a group of adventurers entered my cave to rest, and when they saw me inside, they attacked me, tried to kill me, and even burned all the books I had read, so I had no choice but to defend myself. Even so, I was wounded, and still they refused to leave me in peace." The boy was truly moved by her story and offered her a place to live with them, assuring her it would be safer. "Lina is just like you. She has lived with us for more than 15 years, and no one has ever harmed her. I am certain that if you come, everyone will welcome you warmly." The girl agreed to his offer, but on one condition, that he provide her with many books to read. Haruto immediately accepted, and the girl transformed into her human form, her beauty radiant like the moon. She looked at him, her eyes shining, and said, "Give me a beautiful name that suits me." Without hesitation, Haruto named her Lisa. Then they both set off back home together. Haruto and Lisa soared through the skies, while Lina, unable to fly, was left running on the ground, trying hard to keep up with them. Jealousy crept into her heart as she feared Haruto might fall in love with Lisa and prefer her instead. Ah, the rivalry of girls. Does it begin now? After a while, they arrived home, where Haruto introduced Lisa to his father. The father welcomed her warmly, and she met the rest of the family, who were all delighted by her presence. Several days passed, and Lisa blended perfectly with them until life became entirely harmonious. They even decided that she would become Charlotte's private magic tutor, as Lisa's magical power was extraordinary. Indeed, the very next day, Lisa began teaching Charlotte magic. Though Lisa's magic was water and Charlotte's was fire, she still managed to show her how to create a great blazing fireball. Charlotte was thrilled with her achievement, calling for her brother to see, and Haruto was overjoyed with his sister's progress. Everyone was filled with happiness. Later, Haruto sat contemplating who his companion to the academy should be. At first, he did not know who to choose, but now the answer was clear as day. Lisa was the perfect one, and so Haruto asked her to be his partner, the one who would support him throughout his studies, for she was the most suitable for the task. And of course, the girl did not hesitate for a single moment. She accepted instantly, without objection or even a single question. On the following day, Haruto and Liza began preparing for their journey. Haruto informed his father that he was ready to depart toward the royal capital, and his father bid him farewell with hopes of success and good fortune. Unlike him, Lina was deeply upset that Haruto had chosen Liza instead of her. At that very moment, Charlotte intervened and told her brother to continue on his path without worry, assuring him that she would handle Lina. Meanwhile, a message arrived at the royal palace informing that Haruto was on his way to the academy. Marianne immediately went to her brother, questioning him about the reason behind requesting Haruto's admission and what his true intention was. He replied that he wished to uncover the secret behind Haruto's overwhelming power, for he was certain that Haruto's strength was unlike anything he had ever encountered before, and that it certainly was not merely of the second level as everyone claimed. His sister laughed and told him, "It seems you have abandoned your arrogance and become more human, caring enough to observe another person. This is how you have truly grown stronger, for Haruto always manages to provoke everyone around him." The two then spoke about the state of the kingdom, particularly regarding the appearance of a mysterious group that threatened its safety. This group was preparing for the resurrection of the Demon of Darkness, an event that would bring forth a great catastrophe upon the world. What was even stranger was that the one funding them with vast amounts of wealth was an extremely wealthy and influential person, and the two suspected that their mother, the queen, was behind it all, especially since her appearance had changed drastically. Ever since the collar appeared around her neck, her behavior had grown strange and incomprehensible, and no one knew the true purpose or function of the collar. Marianne continued saying, "I know what I am about to say may sound insane, but I feel that Haruto is the only one capable of saving the kingdom and explaining precisely what is happening within it." Yet the prince replied, "Do not exaggerate. You are overestimating matters. Haruto is strong, without doubt, but not to such a degree. I am certain that the only one capable of that is the Black Knight." At that moment, the queen entered. When her children saw her, they froze in unease and fell silent. Yet she acted naturally, telling them she had not meant to eavesdrop but had only heard them by chance. She then moved toward her daughter with sharp agitation. Suddenly, the queen transformed, clutching her daughter by the neck and lifting her high into the air, her eyes blazing with fury as she snarled, "What are you staring at? The collar around my neck, is that it? Why are you so concerned with it? And let me make one thing clear. This collar does not mean I am weakened. I am the strongest sorceress in the kingdom, and no one shall ever defeat me. I will show you that soon enough." Her daughter was on the verge of death in her grasp until Lai shouted at her in rage to release her. The queen hurled her to the ground, and Marianne gasped desperately for air. With a cold voice, the queen said, "Are you angry? I was only joking." A terrifying joke indeed, for she had almost killed her own daughter. Then she turned toward Lai with fury, saying, "I heard you speaking of a boy named Haruto. He seems very strong. I want you to get close to him, become his friend, and uncover all the information you can." Thus, suspicion grew in the queen's heart that Haruto might be the Black Knight, and such a thought was a grim omen. On the next day, Haruto was seen at his home in the forest when Charlotte approached and asked, "Why are you here and not traveling to the capital?" He reassured her, saying, "Do not worry. For me, traveling has become but seconds. I created a magical gate connected to this house, and I can return in mere moments." He greeted his sister and everyone, and then, alongside Liza, stepped through the gate. In an instant, they found themselves before the capital's gates, leaving the portal hidden deep within the forest so that no one could discover his secret. At that moment, Haruto heard the sound of carriage wheels rushing at great speed. When he looked over the hill, he saw a massive bull chasing a carriage filled with people. Without hesitation, he transformed into the Black Knight to aid them. Meanwhile, a young girl within the carriage attempted to protect her companions, even at the cost of her life. But the bull was far stronger than her. It struck her down, and just as it was about to trample her, the Black Knight stood before it in wrath and saved her. With a single mighty strike, he brought the beast crashing down unconscious. The girl thanked Haruto for saving her, and all those with her. When Haruto noticed she was in pain, he used healing magic to mend all her wounds. The girl then realized she was standing before a power beyond ordinary measure, an extraordinary and unique magic. Time passed and Haruto departed, but Liza said, "I feel that this girl is strange, not normal. The energy I sensed from her was different. Something about her is unusual." Haruto paid it no mind, confident he would not meet her again. Later, Haruto reached the capital, entered the city and the academy, and was given a spacious, beautiful room. Yet to him, it felt like nothing more than a prison, for he did not wish to remain there and longed to return home. He completed all registration procedures, gloomy and disheartened, then returned to his forest home. When his sister saw him, she joyfully asked, "So, how was your first day?" Haruto recounted all that had happened, and she told him, "I want to come with you to the capital. I want to enjoy myself a little. I am tired of being here. Please take me with you." Haruto agreed, In the capital, Charlotte assigned Liza and Lena to remain together, while she and Haruto went out to explore the city. They visited all the landmarks and enjoyed their time together. While walking, Charlotte accidentally bumped into a girl who turned out to be the same one Haruto had saved earlier that morning. Yet she did not recognize him, as he had been wearing the Black Knight's armor. Still, she grew suspicious and asked, "Have we met before? Your magical aura feels familiar to me." Haruto denied it, replying, "No, this is the first time I have ever seen you." The girl apologized and left. Charlotte then said, "I feel that this girl is strange and her magic is different." That was exactly what Liza had said about the same girl. Doubt began to stir within Haruto's mind, and things seemed far from promising. On the next day, Haruto's first official day at the academy began, with exams to confirm his admission and determine whether he would be accepted formally. Haruto resolved to fail all the tests deliberately so he would be rejected and return to the city. He entered the exam hall tense and fearful of success. When the exam began, one of the instructors handed Haruto his paper, and he noticed how easy the questions were. He could have answered them effortlessly, but he deliberately wrote random, incorrect answers to fail. Yet when he reached the section on ancient magic, he remembered his love for studying magic and his passion for reading about it, so he wrote the correct answers as he had memorized them. Haruto was about to alter them to wrong answers, but before he could, the instructor said, "Your time is up," and snatched the paper from his hands. He then told him, "Now it is time to measure your magical level." Haruto replied, "My level is only 2, not even worth measuring." But the instructor assured him, "Do not worry, this is just routine. Everyone must be measured." Immediately, they took him to the office where the teacher responsible for him awaited. Hearing her voice as she welcomed him, Haruto had not yet seen her face, but when he looked down, he found her right before him. In his thoughts, he mused, "How is she a teacher? She looks as though she simply fell from someone's pocket. Does no one pick her up or notice her?" But the teacher possessed the power to read minds and knew exactly what he was thinking. Angrily, she confronted him. "If you think you will pass my test easily, you are dreaming. I am certain we shall expel you from the academy the moment I read your answers." She thought she was intimidating him, but little did she know that this had been his very goal from the beginning. Yet when she read Haruto's answers, she was utterly shocked. She told him, "Come now, we must measure your magical power." When Haruto placed his hand upon the crystal, the unexpected occurred before everyone's eyes. A blinding light erupted from within, his power so immense that the crystal could not withstand it and shattered into pieces. The entire room was struck with disbelief, for none had anticipated such an overwhelming display of strength. The teacher, astonished beyond words, declared, "Your magic surpasses the crystal itself. You are truly extraordinary." She also realized that Haruto had written the exact answers found in her book on ancient magic, for she herself was the author of the very book he had studied from. Overwhelmed with admiration, she told him, "From this day forward, you are officially one of the Academy's students. Not only that, but I shall personally add you to my group and take responsibility for your education. As long as you are with me, no one will dare trouble you." And thus, the tables had turned. Instead of being expelled as he wished, Haruto was bound even more tightly to the academy. What a beginning indeed, one that promised only destruction in the days to come. Days passed until the first day of school finally arrived. That day, it was Haruto's duplicate who would attend in his place. Yet the boy felt nothing but deep boredom and heavy depression. He did not want to go under any circumstances. Since Charlotte knew that he possessed no magical power whatsoever, she gave him a pistol so he could defend himself should anyone try to harm him. She also tried to encourage and comfort him, assuring him that the day would pass quickly and he would hardly feel it. Indeed, the boy listened to her words and set off for the academy. He spent his day as usual, and once it ended, he hurried back home to find comfort again. But on his way back from school, he encountered an arrogant, pompous young noble, arguing with a girl simply because she had passed by without bowing or offering him respect. He shouted at her, "Kneel, girl, from now on. Whenever you see me, you will kneel, or I shall never spare you." This young man, as we learn, was named Schneidel, headmaster of the Magical Academy. Arrogant to the core, he treated everyone around him like mere servants. When he saw Haruto's duplicate not bow to him either, he immediately confronted him. Haruto's duplicate tried to lie, saying, "I'm tired, man, so I didn't notice." But his poor acting was obvious. Furious, Schneidel cast a powerful spell, so strong it nearly killed him. Yet to Schneidel's shock, the duplicate stood back up as if nothing had happened. Still, the boy pretended to be in pain, hoping to escape this arrogant noble and return home. But Schneidel insisted on finishing him. Cornered and desperate, Haruto's duplicate drew the pistol Charlotte had given him and fired, striking Schneidel in the shoulder. He then ran home and recounted everything to Haruto, trembling with fear of the consequences. Before he could finish, one of Schneidel's followers suddenly appeared, delivering Haruto a letter, an official summons to a royal duel against Schneidel to reclaim his honor. At first, Haruto considered withdrawing, but the girl warned him that doing so would disgrace his family and bring them nothing but humiliation. With no other choice left, Haruto accepted the challenge. After the girl departed, Haruto began monitoring her through his surveillance screen. He saw her meet a white-haired girl and leave together. He continued watching as they reached Schneidel. There, in front of everyone, the girl bowed her head and said, "I'm sorry, my lord. Everything that happened was because of me. Please, do not cause any more trouble. Leave Haruto alone, I beg you." But Schneidel, arrogant and merciless, decided to punish her in the harshest, most humiliating way before everyone. The girl endured disgrace, and Haruto could no longer control himself. He could not endure it any longer. Immediately, he donned the mask of the Black Knight and set out toward them. When he arrived, he plunged the entire place into darkness and confronted Schneidel. Overcome with rage, he placed a powerful magical seal on Schneidel's shoulder, the very one struck by the bullet, and declared, "This is your punishment for all the innocent students you have tormented without cause. Know this seal will be your curse. It will torment you for the rest of your life. The more you try to remove it, the greater the pain will become, and it shall never leave you. Let us see how you bully others after today." Then he rescued the girl, left Schneidel screaming in agony, and disappeared into the night. Schneidel, consumed by pain and humiliation, swore to take revenge on the Black Knight no matter what it cost him. Thus, the day came to an end. The following morning, when Haruto went to the academy, he found all the teachers and students waiting for him. They were astonished. He was the only one who had ever stood against Schneidel and defeated him in a single strike. With every step he took, whispers followed him. The pressure overwhelmed him, and he quickly tried to escape their stares. But fate was unkind. He ran right into his teacher, Talia. Smiling, she said, "By the way, you were magnificent yesterday. Have you chosen the specialization you wish to study?" Haruto admitted that he did not yet know what specializations existed within the academy, so Talia explained, "Listen well, boy. The academy is divided into two divisions. The first is the division of martial arts. It focuses on physical strength, combat training, and dueling. From it, you graduate as a knight. The second is the division of magical energy. There you learn the arts of magic, refine your abilities, and even create new spells. From it, you graduate as a great mage." She then revealed that she was in charge of the magical division and wished for him to join her team. Haruto was torn, unable to decide between the two paths. Suddenly, a voice called out to him. It was Lai, approaching with excitement. Yet Haruto had not seen him in 5 years and did not recognize him. He brushed him off coldly, even pushing his hand away. At that moment, his sister Marion appeared. Haruto recognized her, and through her learned that the boy before him was none other than Prince Lai. Leaving them, Marion asked Haruto which division he had chosen. He admitted he was still undecided, but felt inclined toward the division of magical energy, promising to make his final decision within 2 days. As they were speaking, the white-haired girl approached Haruto. "Come with me. I need to speak to you about something important," she said. Once alone, she asked directly, "Weren't you the one in the academy yesterday?" "I'm certain it wasn't you." No magical energy flowed from his body as it does from you now. Realizing she was no ordinary girl, Haruto struggled to lie. At last, he admitted, "You're right. It wasn't me at the academy yesterday, but I cannot reveal any further details." The girl smiled at his honesty. "Since you answered me truthfully, from this moment onward, you will be my dearest friend. I will remain by your side everywhere you go." Relieved, Haruto asked about her. He knew nothing about her, not even her name. She replied, "My name is Iris. Remember it well. You may need it one day." Then she began to share her story. "I am just an ordinary orphan girl. Many families adopted me, but each one abandoned me without reason. In the end, I was left in a small orphanage in a faraway village. I grew up with no friends, no ties to anyone. That is why, when I came of age, I decided to enter the magical academy to escape this miserable life." Haruto felt sympathy for her. "Don't worry. worry," he said. "From now on, I'll be by your side." Their conversation ended there. Meanwhile, Charlotte, overwhelmed with worry for her brother, decided to use a magic portal to visit the academy, leaving Lisa and Lena talking together. As they conversed, Lisa asked, "Tell me about your life. Where were you, and what did you do before joining Haruto?" Lena began her tale. "I was once a magical wolf, loyal to the King of Darkness. Unlike all other kings of darkness, he alone protected humanity and kept evil at bay. But one day, he was forced to sacrifice himself to stop a great threat that would have annihilated mankind. Since that day, I have wished only for his return, whether as himself or as an ordinary human, stripped of all power." Lisa, impressed, asked curiously, "What was his name?" The shocking reply came. "His name was Iris." My God, could this be connected to Haruto's new friend Iris? Only time would tell. Returning to Haruto and Iris, we find them heading to choose their study courses. But when Haruto opened his room, he was surprised to find Charlotte waiting for him. She, in turn, was startled to see Iris with him. The two girls introduced themselves warmly. Charlotte was delighted. Her brother finally had a friend and would no longer be alone. Once reassured, she bid him farewell and returned home. And so the day ended. On the second day, it was Haruto's duplicate's turn to head to the academy, so he put on his clothes, prepared himself, and set out there, where his rank was determined to be in the intermediate class, and he was not promoted to the class of the elite, which of course did not mean much to him. Then he entered his new classroom, and at that moment, all the students and even the teacher were shocked and could not believe how Haruto, the one who had defeated Schneidel with a single blow, could be placed in the intermediate class. Yet the duplicate tried to ignore their stares and went back to sit at the last seat of the class, whereupon the teacher said to them, "Do not worry, for you still have a chance to be promoted to the elite class, and this chance is today through a sudden exam. And whoever achieves the highest score shall be transferred to the elite class, while the lowest among you shall either be expelled from the academy or transferred to the class of the weak." And here Haruto said to himself, "The opportunity has come to me by itself. All I have to do is to fail the exam, and thus they will be convinced that I am a failure, and they will expel me from the academy." Indeed, he took the exam paper and began answering, and in order to perfect his plan without arousing suspicion, he answered some of the questions correctly so that no one would doubt him. And in the end, it appeared as if he had passed with a very low score, making him the lowest in the class, and no one suspected that he was deliberately answering incorrectly. Afterwards, the results appeared, and the shock struck everyone, for they could not believe that the entire class had failed in such a manner that all of them received 20%, while the best among them was Haruto, who had achieved 60%. Thus, he would ascend to the elite class, which was a tremendous shock to him as he said in himself, "Is it truly destined that I shall never fail? Once again, I have risen." Afterwards, he left them and went to the class of the elite, where both Iris and Lai were awaiting him, and when they saw him, they were overjoyed at his presence and welcomed him into the academy until the professor entered, sat in her place, and began the first lesson, where the teacher began to speak, saying, "Today we shall speak about the elements of nature that each one of you possesses." And she began with Iris and asked her to reveal her element through the crystal, whereupon everyone was astonished when the result appeared, that the girl possessed all 5 elements, something exceedingly rare, to the extent that she appeared almost like a queen of darkness, though they were not yet certain of it. Time passed quickly, and after the lesson ended, Haruto went with Iris to the laboratory of Professor Teria, and as soon as they arrived there and spoke with her, they heard the voice of her assistant screaming inside the laboratory, and when they entered to see what was happening, they were all shocked to find the body of Schneidel lying before them. Everyone was unsettled, but the professor said to them, "Do not worry, he has only fainted. For Schneidel came to me yesterday asking me to undo a strange magical seal on his shoulder, and I tried every method and conducted all my research, yet I failed to break it, and because of the intense pain he felt, he fainted now. Yet I sensed something strange. For I have noticed that this seal is one of the ancient magical seals, since all modern magic must make use of one of the natural elements. Yet this magic is crafted from barrier cubes, which exist only in ancient magic." Here Haruto was shocked by what he heard and said in himself, "It seems this professor shall reach me in the end," and his tension grew even greater when Schneidel awoke, and the professor asked him, "Who sealed you with this incantation?" To which he replied, "The Black Knight." At that moment the professor began thinking, and turned her gaze to Haruto saying, I heard that the very first time this Black Knight appeared, it was in your city, Haruto. And now when you have come here, he has appeared again, so what exactly is the reason? Do you have a logical explanation for this or not? Haruto began to justify himself with hesitant words, not knowing what to say, but Tarea did not believe him, insisting that he had information about the Black Knight he was hiding, or that he was the Black Knight himself. At that moment, the real Haruto was watching what was happening through the surveillance screens, and he decided to intervene quickly to save the situation, so he appeared at the right moment in the form of the Black Knight to dispel the suspicions cast upon him, and he entered upon them, and as soon as the professor saw him, she nearly lost her senses, unable to believe her eyes, and she asked him to remain with her in the laboratory so that she might learn more about him, or conduct experiments upon him to uncover the secret of his power. But he refused and turned away to leave, yet Tarea bound him with a magical incantation and said, "I shall not let you leave this place before I know exactly who you are." But he slipped free of her with ease and cast upon her a curse that froze her in place so that she could no longer move. And he said to her, "This is your punishment, old woman, for what you have done. And the last thing I shall say is that I do not know that useless boy, nor have I any relation to him," referring to his duplicate Haruto. Thus he proved to everyone that he had no relation to the Black Knight, then departed, and after his departure the incantation upon the professor dissolved, so she turned her attention away from the Black Knight and decided to continue her life without him. Meanwhile, Schneidel was in a state of utmost rage, feeling helpless and humiliated, for on the morrow was to be his duel with Haruto, and because of his injury he would be forced to withdraw from the duel, which would bring him great disgrace. And to rid himself of this situation, he hired a gang of assassins, giving them the descriptions of Haruto and everyone with him, and even their location, and commanded them to annihilate them utterly and not leave a single one alive, saying to them, "I want you to burn everything there to the ground." Indeed, they obeyed him and moved toward the address, and their numbers were great. Yet strangely enough, whenever they drew near the laboratory, they were repelled by a mysterious force. Yes, it was the barrier Haruto had created to protect them. Suddenly, a magical door appeared before them, and when one of them dared to open it, the door pulled him in, and he vanished without a trace, terrifying the rest, and they continued to strike the door many times, but it absorbed all their strength without any effect. Then suddenly, dozens of doors appeared around them in every direction, and each door pulled in one of the gang and disappeared, until the great surprise occurred, for from the doors began to emerge multiple duplicates of the Black Knight, and among them Haruto himself appeared, who seized the leader of the gang and struck him fiercely until he revealed who had ordered them with this task. Then he took them all and went to Schneidel, and as soon as Schneidel saw him, he was seized with terror and denied that he knew the gang or had ever seen them before. Yet he did not know that Haruto had been watching him for a long time and had recorded everything he had said. Schneidel realized that his end had come, so he said, "Since this is the end, I shall show you my true power." And here he injected himself with a strange substance that transformed him into a monstrous savage beast that none dared approach, and Haruto was confused, not knowing whether to save him or to kill him. But when the beast tried to seize him, Haruto used the magic of barriers and cut off his hand. Yet the beast was able to regenerate it. But the surprise was that every time the beast regenerated itself or lost a part of its body, its size diminished more and more. And here a crazy idea struck Haruto, and suddenly he summoned large and countless swords and hurled them upon him from every direction, until the monster was utterly exhausted, and his body continued to shrink until he returned to his natural form. But he had lost his sanity and began running like a madman, and thus his affair came to an end. Thus, Haruto finally rid himself of the danger that had threatened him and his companions. Then he went to check on them and found them safe, and found his duplicate still asleep. So he sat with him and spoke with him a little, and they remembered their former lives, and they agreed that despite all that they had endured in this life, it was far better than their previous life, which had held no value, and he was filled with happiness at what he had achieved, and the day ended upon that. On the next day, we saw Charlotte gathering her companions in the forest as she always did, and she said to them, "We must intensify our surveillance upon Haruto in order to protect him from any danger that may face him, for we shall stand by his side and never abandon him." And at that moment, Haruto was watching them, laughing at the innocence of his sister and her love for him, and he was certain that for the sake of his sister, he could do anything, even sacrifice himself, merely to see her safe and happy, and thus the anime came to an end. So do not forget to subscribe and like, and farewell. Yet Tarea bound him with a magical incantation and said, "I shall not let you leave this place before I know exactly who you are." but he slipped free of her with ease and cast upon her a curse that froze her in place so that she could no longer move. And he said to her, "This is your punishment, old woman, for what you have done. And the last thing I shall say is that I do not know that useless boy, nor have I any relation to him," referring to his duplicate Haruto. Thus he proved to everyone that he had no relation to the Black Knight, then departed, and after his departure the incantation upon the professor dissolved, so she turned her attention away from the Black Knight and decided to continue her life without him. Meanwhile, Schneidel was in a state of utmost rage, feeling helpless and humiliated, for on the morrow was to be his duel with Haruto, and because of his injury, he would be forced to withdraw from the duel, which would bring him great disgrace. And to rid himself of this situation, he hired a gang of assassins, giving them the descriptions of Haruto and everyone with him, and even their location, and commanded them to annihilate them utterly and not leave a single one alive, saying to them, "I want you to burn everything there to the ground." Indeed, they obeyed him and moved toward the address, and their numbers were great. Yet strangely enough, whenever they drew near the laboratory, they were repelled by a mysterious force. Yes, it was the barrier Haruto had created to protect them. Suddenly, a magical door appeared before them, and when one of them dared to open it, the door pulled him in, and he vanished without a trace, terrifying the rest, and they continued to strike the door many times, but it absorbed all their strength without any effect. Then suddenly, dozens of doors appeared around them in every direction, and each door pulled in one of the gang and disappeared, until the great surprise occurred. For from the doors began to emerge multiple duplicates of the Black Knight, and among them Haruto himself appeared, who seized the leader of the gang and struck him fiercely until he revealed who had ordered them with this task. Then he took them all and went to Schneidel, and as soon as Schneidel saw him, he was seized with terror and denied that he knew the gang or had ever seen them before. Yet he did not know that Haruto had been watching him for a long time and had recorded everything he had said. Schneidel realized that his end had come, so he said, "Since this is the end, I shall show you my true power." And here he injected himself with a strange substance that transformed him into a monstrous savage beast that none dared approach, and Haruto was confused, not knowing whether to save him or to kill him. But when the beast tried to seize him, Haruto used the magic of barriers and cut off his hand. Yet the beast was able to regenerate it, but the surprise was that every time the beast regenerated itself or lost a part of its body, its size diminished more and more. And here a crazy idea struck Haruto, and suddenly he summoned large and countless swords and hurled them upon him from every direction, until the monster was utterly exhausted, and his body continued to shrink until he returned to his natural form. But he had lost his sanity and began running like a madman, and thus his affair came to an end. Thus, Haruto finally rid himself of the danger that had threatened him and his companions. Then he went to check on them and found them safe, and found his duplicate still asleep. So he sat with him and spoke with him a little, and they remembered their former lives, and they agreed that despite all that they had endured in this life, it was far better than their previous life, which had held no value, and he was filled with happiness at what he had achieved, and the day ended upon that. On the next day, we saw Charlotte gathering her companions in the forest as she always did, and she said to them, "We must intensify our surveillance upon Haruto in order to protect him from any danger that may face him, for we shall stand by his side and never abandon him." And at that moment, Haruto was watching them, laughing at the innocence of his sister and her love for him, and he was certain that for the sake of his sister, he could do anything, even sacrifice himself, merely to see her safe and happy, and thus the anime came to an end. So do not forget to subscribe and like, and farewell.